The beacon of hope.
The blip of blue.
Alright guys, so if you're in a bind, this is the difference between tubing. This is typical hardware store tubing. This is relatively new, it's pretty rigid, this is designed for sinks and what have not. Now this is a bit more accessible, you don't have to order it online, and in addition to that, it is a little bit cheaper. I don't know exactly what the pricing is on it, but I do know that when I built my first loop, money was an object, and I did not have an infinite amount of it. So therefore, I had to stick with something that was much more accessible. So I just went to the hardware store and got it. This is what it turns into if you don't take care of your loop. In fact, I can put these side to side. You see how it's frosted? That's grossness. Now, this, on the other hand, is actual water cooling tubing. This stuff I know runs like 15, 20 bucks, which isn't bad. It's about $1 a foot. Alright, so why I bring that tubing up is because this particular build isn't one that you necessarily see a lot online. This is stupid for the sake of being stupid. And in that, we're going to have a lot of obnoxious turns that really can only be done with tubing. So we need the flexible tubing. If you plan on having flexibility and weird looking loops and stuff with your tubing in your build, then you should know what kind of tubing you're after. Alright, so this is the difference. This stuff came out of this box. This is just Primo Flex something. It's just standard water cooling soft tubing. This stuff will bend quite a bit more. It's a lot more flexible. Alright, I've got a piece that's much longer of the same thing that this stuff is. These two are the same type. This is just older and used, and this is less used and more maintained. If I attempt to do that, it does this. It doesn't, it's a lot more tough. So what you have to do with this stuff is you can make bends, but you have to do it a little bit more as if it was hard tubing. So, cheaper, but it has consequences. This stuff is better because it also comes with a little bit of a wash and protection to keep this from happening in your tubes. So, those funky turns that I was talking about, the big loops, as you can see right now, we have 4 water blocks on here. And there's actually going to be a 5th one for the RAM water block because that one's on our current build. If you know anything about water cooling, gaming, anything, is that we have to think about this stupid proof because there's actually graphics cards that are also going to be in here. So in order to connect these two hard drives, we have to make funky angles. And another thing that kind of stumped this and made it very, very long dude is these right angle connectors. We were waiting for rotary right angle connectors because the ones that we had, number one, we didn't have enough. Number two, they're not quite helpful. And I can show you what I mean by that. So if we take this one and we thread it, this is not a rotary. Once this is threaded in all the way, if you decide to thread it in all the way, it will only ever face one direction. Now, because the threads are usually 50-50, sometimes if you back it up a half turn, you can rethread it and it will face the opposite direction. But it's very difficult to do, as you can see. So this would basically, and you don't have to put them in all the way. You can leave it out a little bit. It will still make a seal, but the seal is not perfect, if that makes any sense. With a rotary, on the other hand, well, rotary's different. I can turn this thing as much as I want. If I want it going that way, I can turn it that way. Want it to go this way? Turn it that way. So when you have something like a graphics card that's going to be sitting like this in that slot, you can see how this might be a little bit of an issue in terms of obstruction.
let alone when you have another one that's down here. And that's also why I have a graphics card here, is so we can attempt to measure and figure out exactly where things are going to be.
So, with all that long-windedness out of the way, let's get into how this actually all goes together and if it's even going to work. So this is the god-awful abomination that we finally settled on. Mind you, there's another block that goes right here, the RAM water block, and we're going to add a little bit more RAM to it to make it even more stable. So basically, this is the inlet, and this is going to come from the RAM water block, which is going to actually start over here, and that is going to come from the pump. So this is actually the start of the loop. And it's going to go here, there, to there. We're going to make a little U. And then it's going to exit here. This is everything that's being water cooled in the computer. And the graphics cards are going to go with GPU 0 going here and number 1 going here, because she now has 2 graphics cards. And the reason for that is she doesn't have water blocks on her graphics card because they were repurposed from something else that was repurposed from something else, and now they're obsolete. And the solution here would be to buy a new graphics card. But with everything that's going on in the world right now, it's looking like new graphics cards are right around the corner, so we're not going to do that. So this will probably get redone sometime in the future. So yeah, there's some obvious concerns here if you're looking to do this yourself. This is not the route that you do it. If you're going to try to liquid cool everything, then liquid cool everything. Because if you had a water block, then putting a GPU in this slot is not a problem. It would not obstruct. It's just the fact that this is a 2-slot cooler and these are not adequate. So if you look right here, you can look ever so slightly. You'll notice that one of these is just a little bit higher than the other, which normally isn't a problem, but measuring by my fingernail, you can see that there's really not a lot of distance there. And Jessica says, let me try. So we're going to try. But I can't promise anything. As a matter of fact, I think what's going to end up happening is these are going to end up turning. That way I can fit some tubing in there. Because I don't think that there's enough real estate that you can make that drop down. Not be able to make the drop down and still fit a collar on it. See, the rest of these have collars. They're just gonna... Good God, woman. Yeah, so you got a collar on it. So you put the collar on the tube, but as you can see, there isn't even room for it. So a lot of these really, really close ones, I don't think are actually gonna happen. Now, if this was hardline, then by all means, that would happen all day long. But it's not, it's soft. So, and we're not gonna come in with soft tubing and then go hardline, and then exit with soft tubing, because that looks dumb. So, let's start mangling. These are the coolest things ever. I got them from one generic-looking hardline tubing kit. Best thing ever. They're scissors. And they work so much better for any soft tubing or hard tubing than just normal scissors. I don't know what it is about these. Maybe it's the fact that I like obnoxiously sized tubing. Maybe it's the fact that this has a big blade, but it also has like an on-off switch. Coolest thing ever. I advocate that you get one of these. Show the people a little trick that I learned. A little doohickey trick. I'm going to tell you guys something. This is not necessary. This is me, being me, doing me things. But this makes it so I can bend that tubing as much as I want. And it will not collapse. This isn't a perfect fit. This is designed for hardline tubing. but it's still the same principle. And I'm going to use a heat gun to make it stay that way. Because after you heat this stuff up, it usually gets kind of hard. And the reason why I want to do that is because if you've got a bend like this, where it's very tight, if it's not heated up and kind of annealed, I think is the word, then it's going to push on these blocks. And I'm concerned about that. So we are going to make noise. You see, it's a little bit more taut. It's kind of like it was meant to do that. Let me just take this doohickey. I'm just gonna wiggle her out. Now it won't push so much. So now it's her turn, and she is going to be going after the M.2 cross bridge section area.
This one here.
That one right there. So here's how we did it.
We measured it out, and then we took it off. And then we made sure everything was on. And then we screwed it back in so it didn't push these apart.
Yep. It still pushes a little bit, but it's not bad.
Alright.
Alright. See what I'm working with here. So roughly...
It's gonna be covered right here.
This is going to be really tight. For those of you questioning, we can't run it the other way because there's going to be a graphics card here. Hey, wait a minute. Why are we wasting rotary fittings on there? I mean, I could easily just do the same thing right like that.
That works. So we changed our mind. These are gonna just come up rather than go around.
Yep. That will do.
Oh my god, it's not even... It's gonna work. It's not even gonna kink.
Alright,
So this is where we stop for the time being.
Because now we have to go drain the other one. Here we go. I would like to make a note before I install this. This thing is really heavy. There's a lot of metal. She likes to watch me do things. Like she watches me cook, watches me clean sometimes.
Alright, the 12-pound behemoth is now screwed in.
Yeah, no shit. It is actually pretty close probably to 12 pounds. Like, that's actually not an exaggeration. That's just a fact.
Alright, we're gonna get everything plugged in real quick. And we'll be back.
it has been literally all day, and like it's evening time now. Here's what's happened. We've shortened up some of these. We have modified the draining ports, so now they're easier to maneuver with rotary fittings. We have installed all of these crazy ass loop-de-loops and things with rotary fittings. We have installed a couple of different, just different ways to maneuver. So now the inlet is actually inlet, and this is actually attached to things properly and not like weird bending around, coming around stuff. Same thing here. We just kind of tightened it up. On the back side, you can't really see it, but we also tightened up back there. I know I said she was going to have 2 GPUs. It didn't fit. The back plate was too thick. It wasn't quite there. So she's going to go down to 1 GPU as a time being, simply because Crossfire didn't really do much on a 2K monitor. It was there, but it didn't really do all that much in terms of raw performance. So she's going to go down to 1. I'm going to take the other one, put it in my rig for the time being. And in the next couple of months, all this is going to get changed anyways. And we'll probably redo it with liquid-cooled graphics cards.